Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Supply Chain. So, let's start with a little bit of a brain teaser. Many companies have invested in multiple technologies to digitize operations. But according to a 2024 report, which areas see the least investment? Now, that's a tough one. I'm thinking that AI must have seen some of the most investment, but I'm not sure where the least would lie. What do you think? Let me know your guesses over on social and keep listening because I'll let you know at the end of the show. Today's episode, I am joined by an organization that connects over 2 billion people to over 20 billion consumer choices, and that's Manhattan Associates. Now, Manhattan provides more than just supply chain solutions. Through advanced cloud native technology and deep collaboration, their team of experienced industry experts are dedicated to equipping their partners with the tools needed to navigate the supply chain commerce world effectively. And it's Bryant Smith, Director of Product Management at Manhattan, that is joining me for the show today. With over the last 13 plus years, Bryant has served in various roles in the supply chain software space, including operations, implementation, and product management. And in his current role, Bryant has a passion for building solutions that solve real business problems and deliver consistent value to customers and to end users. So today, Bryant and I will be talking all about supply chain unification, what it means, the barriers and potential, and its impact on visibility, resilience, and cost. We'll also be taking a closer look at Manhattan's transport management solution and what we can expect from them in 2025 as they continue to help clients on their supply chain unification journey. So, welcome to the show, Bryant.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you having me on today's episode, and I'm looking forward to having our conversation about unification.
Yes, I'm happy to have you here. We met just a few months ago at your user conference, and it was great. We even went live and talked about all sorts of different topics. And Let's Talk Supply Chain is going to be working with Manhattan really on a range of different things over the next few months, which I'm super excited about. Manhattan really is a long-standing brand in the industry, so I'm excited to work with you and share some incredible content with our audience. And I appreciate you for kicking things off with us today. So let's start with a bit of an introduction to Manhattan. Who are you? What do you do? How do you help your customers?
Absolutely.
You did such a great lead in your introduction here, but I will add just a couple more elements here just to help the audience understand a little bit about what we do at Manhattan. Of course, we're a leader in the supply chain commerce technology. We range in solutions from order management to warehouse management to transportation management, some of which many folks in your audience are pretty familiar with, but happy to go into a little bit more detail here today and how these solutions are providing benefits to our customers. We're a publicly traded company. We were founded in 1990. We have over 4,500 associates around the world, and you can find our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. So just a little bit about ourselves, and looking forward to diving into some of these solutions.
Well, yeah, and my experience at Momentum really solidified all of that. The passion, the amount of people that were in that room was incredible. And I was able to sit there for some of the presentations. Loved them. Like, if you didn't go to Momentum this year, you definitely need to be there next year because some of those presentations were or the ones at least that I could attend were incredible. And the stories from your customers, amazing. So today we're talking about supply chain unification. So let's start with the basics. What is it? What does supply chain unification actually mean?
This is a great introduction into the topic. There's a lot of misconceptions about unification, and people have different definitions about what unification is and is not. I like to kind of frame it up in that way. I want to start first by what is unification. And there's a lot of different components and workflows that are associated with managing a supply chain. Whether you're a warehouse user managing the inventory in the warehouse, whether you're a transportation user managing the logistics, or you're a purchaser and order management, there's a lot of different things that our end users use within the application. But I want to make sure that the unification story is understood. is we have a single platform that manages all of those different workflows in one central place. So sometimes you may hear other companies express the unification name and definition as integrating different systems in a unified fashion, which
Okay.
that is a definition of unification, but that's not our definition of unification.
Okay.
So you may hear other people say we've unified warehouse and transportation, all these different things, where the underlying technology is really just creating integrations amongst those applications. But here at Manhattan, we've created one single platform that allows us to support those different workflows without any integration. So a shipment within warehouse is the exact same shipment that's in transportation management.
Well, and that's interesting because a lot of the conversations that I've been having recently are about the tech stacks and how they're sort of getting unmanageable and out of control. And so I'm understanding from what you're talking about around unification that kind of solves for that.
Absolutely.
I love that. Okay. So, we want to talk about this today through the lens of Manhattan's transport management solutions, because this is where you're taking those traditional systems, unifying them so they really operate differently. So give us an overview of that solution so we get a better understanding of why that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So fully appreciate that your audience has not only business and operation centric folks, but also you have a portion of your audience that is very much on the IT and technology side. So we'll try to tailor the message to both of the audience members here. We don't want to go too far one way or the other, but I do want to first talk about the architecture for just a minute, because that'll explain some of the benefits that the architecture allows us to do.
Okay.
So we have what we call the Manhattan Active Platform, which is completely cloud native, microservice based, that allows us to have extensible components through APIs. Now, that's a lot of technical jargon to basically just say that it's very modernized in its technology that allows us to scale and perform and deploy in different ways that legacy on-premise applications just don't have that level of flexibility to provide. So understanding that, we're bringing and allowing those components to interact with each other in a unified way. So if we start at the smallest portion of TMS, you have your transportation planning, you have transportation execution, you have modeling, you have claims and invoicing, all these different things, right? Which we can bring together in components to comprise that transportation experience. But keep in mind, we can also layer in components from warehouse. So you can do your picking and your packing. You can also pull in components from yard, where you can do check-in and check-out and detention and all those types of things. But you can also pull in components from order management and get visibility into your order patterns and order fulfillment. So having these components interact with each other allows us to do more advanced things within the architecture itself. But it's been a journey for us to get there. This was not something that we just woke up the next day and all of this was available to us. The journey actually started with us back in 2017. So we introduced Manhattan Active Platform, and the first capabilities we provided were around order management. So we got our proving our architecture since 2017. And then in 2019, we introduced the warehouse capabilities. And then most recently in 2021, we introduced the transportation capabilities, and then yard, and so on and so forth. And as you mentioned, joining us at Momentum, we announced that we're also supporting the inventory management and also demand forecasting and inventory replenishment as part of supply chain planning as well. So not only do you have the downstream execution systems with warehouse and transportation, but you have the upstream capabilities with demand planning, but also order management. So trying to get that full order life cycle from planning all the way through execution, which allows some additional capabilities that we'll get into in just a minute, but I don't want to spoil it. It allows us to do even more things in a unified way that just traditional siloed applications don't allow us to do.
Well, and think about how easy that is, right? You're running down on inventory in the warehouse, and all of a sudden you get an alert as a logistician or a supply chain professional. It's like, hey, you're down to this level. Have you ordered some? Do you have some on the water that is going to come and replace that? And if you don't, you really need to order some right now. This is the life cycle of that product. So you've got about 4 weeks to get some product here, which will determine whether you move it air or ocean, because you got to get it into stock so that you don't miss out on anybody's orders. I just sort of think about all of these things, and I think about all the triggers that are happening when you are on one seamless platform. And the other thing that I like about what you talked about was the use of 2 words. One is active, which is the name of your platform, and supply chain is active, right?
Yes.
We no longer want to be reactionary. We want to be proactive. And we have the capabilities to do that through technology, which I love. And then you use the word experience, the supply chain experience. And for a lot of supply chain professionals, their day-to-day hasn't been that, right? It hasn't necessarily been the experience that they want to wake up to and go to work every single day. But it sounds like Manhattan has really solved for that and is providing that experience. So people love what they do and they love the problems that they're solving, and they get alerted instead of having to stay on top of it or make a mistake that humans do, right?
And something that we've talked about many, many times is, supply chain execution can be hard, but using the technology shouldn't be. The
Right.
technology is very strong, and we need to be able to leverage and harness that technology to do all the heavy lifting for the end user, so that, just as you said, the experience is really more strategic in the way that they're interacting with their customers and partners and suppliers, rather than being more tactical and reactionary in the types of things that are happening within the supply chain. So
Mm.
I think you nailed that point right on the head. And of course, it allows for further collaboration. Not only collaboration internally within the organization, where you see better collaboration between, just as you said, the buyers who are purchasing the inventory, they're collaborating with the warehouse users who are actually in the warehouse managing the inventory levels, but also collaborating with the transportation users, trying to understand, where's that inventory in motion? Is it going to be here tomorrow? Is it going to be here next week? And having that collaboration throughout the supply chain leads to better efficiencies.
And I want to give a moment to something that you just said. Supply chain doesn't need to be hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be hard. It doesn't need to be dramatic.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to lead to burnout,
Yeah.
right? Like these are
Yeah.
important things to think about when you go into work every single day, when you're a supply chain professional talking to your teams, when you're a supply chain leader, advocating for new technology. Supply chain shouldn't be hard or dramatic or lead to burnout. And that's where technology comes in, and I think can really just empower the supply chain industries to a point where businesses are going to notice and see a difference, right? And,
Absolutely.
in my experience, supply chain has historically been very fractured and siloed. You just talked about collaboration. Why in 2024 are we still talking about being fractured and siloed? I think that tech and data sharing has been a real issue. What's your take on the challenges and barriers that have created this sort of fractured ecosystem that ultimately now needs to be unified?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are not fans of history and history classes, so I'll try to not make this a history lesson, but it's important to know where we came from to know where we're
True.
going. And, supply chain technology has been around for decades. It's no surprise. And really, I think people tried to do the best that they could with the technology that they had available, but it really started off as on-premise software. Is we had to deploy it within our own servers and we had to have it on site and all these other different things, which in of itself creates silos. Because if you have the software deployed on your laptop and the person over there has the software on their
Right.
laptop, they're not talking to each other. And back then, they probably didn't even have laptops. It was probably a desktop. So,
That's true.
it's
You have to
under,
drive to the office to turn on that computer to get
right, right.
access to the software. Sorry.
So but also the approach to the solution was very pointed. They basically just said, "Hey, I have this problem. I need to create a software that allows me to solve that problem." Well,
Hmm.
now we have a bunch of softwares that do very specialized things. So now I need to start connecting them in some way and creating these integrations and backward incompatibility and administration and overhead and all these types of things. And then around the 2000 timeframe, things started moving to the cloud. I didn't have to be on premise anymore. And I think that was really the first step in the technology evolution is getting into the cloud, which opens the door for you to start collaborating with different partners, whether that be your suppliers, your carriers, your customers, because you're getting out of that on premise. You're,
Right.
you're not living in a cave anymore. You're actually out socializing, so to speak.
Well, you
But
got your cell phone. That's going to tell you
yeah,
everything all the time. There's an email.
absolutely.
Oh, I need to answer
Yeah.
it.
So, we're evolving, on-premise is definitely a thing of the past. People are getting into the cloud, things are more cloud native, but also we're improving in the communication protocol that we have, right? We used to just have files and we'd have to go drop them in a FTP folder and somebody would have to pick it up and it's just so inefficient. It's uh, really hard for people to really collaborate in real time. Now, when we start moving to APIs, now we have more synchronous information being shared with our parties. Now we start getting into real-time
Mhm.
information and exchange, where you just couldn't do that with the architecture and the applications of the past. So, supply chain technology has evolved with not only in the things it can solve, but how it solves those problems as well. And we won't even get into the Gen AI stuff, which is like, the next evolution of the supply chain technology space. But the reason we're having these problems today is because of the technology that we were constrained with in the past. And we're
Mhm.
starting to get rid of that and move into the future of future collaboration and real-time information.
Well, and just the mindset that we've all sort of grown up through our careers, thinking about, it's hard to get out of that. But also, when you said the word filing, I kind of cringed because I just remember those days
Yeah.
where they were filing days where you had to take like file folders and file them appropriately in the filing cabinets that like went on for days.
Yes.
Ooh, you just took me back to a nightmare that I would rather forget was part of my career journey.
It's like manual paper has turned into like a four-letter word. It's like, don't give me a hard copy of anything. Just give me a digital copy.
Yes, and
Yeah.
all the paper cut like the
Yeah.
generation after us
Yeah.
or maybe the generation after them did not have to deal with this, but I don't know if you remember paper cuts from the actual file folders.
Oh,
Those ones hurt. I'm so glad we are not filing paper anymore.
yes.
So, what's the potential to be found in supply chain unification? And let's start talking about visibility, which I mentioned earlier. It's become a bit of a buzzword, but that doesn't mean that it's not really important. So, what does visibility mean to you? What's the impact for businesses when it's achieved?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously visibility is very much a buzzword and it means different things, different people. But what I want to highlight here as part of a unified platform is you get to see information across different workflows and work streams
Okay.
where in the past those might have been completely different applications. So again, if we're looking at what history was or kind of current state for some people is I have one application that does this. I have one application that does this. I need to have some type of integration to exchange that information.
Right.
People in this application don't understand what's going on in this application. So it's very inefficient. But if you're on the same platform, and I'll give you a real-time example here, is let's say we have an inbound shipment coming from overseas, as an example that you had mentioned. And my people in the warehouse need to know when is this inventory going to be here?
Mhm.
Because maybe I have just-in-time inventory or I have limited shelf space where I'm
Labor,
getting it. Yeah, exactly.
right? Hmm.
So I need to know, how is this shipment transporting? Where is it? When is it going to be here? So on and so forth. Well, if I'm a warehouse user today in the Manhattan Active platform, I see that shipment. I see that booking. I see that container. I know exactly where it is. I know exactly when it's going to be here. So now I can start influencing my inventory buying patterns.
Hmm.
So maybe it's going to be late and I need to have something that's sourced domestically, or it's going to come early and I can cancel this shipment over here because now I'm going to have enough inventory. And to the example that you had brought in is labor utilization.
Hmm.
So maybe I have a shipment that's going to supposed to deliver at 8 a.m. this morning in my at my dock, but it's 4 hours late. Well, now I can divert those labor resources away from that unloading activity within the warehouse and maybe go divert those labor resources to do picking and packing or staging, wherever the case may be. Now I don't have to have my labor resources just sitting around trying to figure out what to do next. I can be more proactive and more prescriptive about how I'm going to manage not only the inventory in the
Hmm.
warehouse, but how am I going to manage the labor in the warehouse based on transportation insights that are happening in the transportation workflows. Now, keep in mind, I don't have to go to another application to figure that out because it's the same exact shipment that's on the active platform that the transportation users are managing is the same exact shipment that our warehouse users are monitoring. So you get further visibility. And when we say end-to-end visibility, what we're talking about is I get visibility further upstream and how the things are happening. I had given the inbound case. But the same thing can be said on the outbound side as well, right? Is now I can have how am I performing within the warehouse so that I'm staging my outbound shipment going out to my
Hmm.
customers. What if I'm behind schedule on staging that shipment or preloading that drop trailer? Now I can start influencing my deliveries to my customers
Right. Letting
based
them
on
know.
how my labor is performing within the warehouse. Same
Yeah.
thing can be said about inventory. Maybe I'm going to short ship or I don't have enough inventory to fill this order. Is now my transportation users are further influenced by how they can plan their outbound shipments based on what's going on in the warehouse.
Hmm.
That's where we start to get that end-to-end visibility. So not only can we be more intelligent about how we're managing the warehouse, we'll be more intelligent about how we're managing our transportation and the yard as well.
Well, and think about the customer experience in that sense, right? If you have to short ship, right? It's not showing up to the customer and they're like, "Oh, it's we're short this many." You can message them right away and say, "You're going to be short this many. We wanted to send out what we had. We have them on the water currently. They're destined to the warehouse this particular date and we'll have them to you by X." So that they can then plan their inventory and what they can sell to their customers, what they can ship to their customers, how much they're going to hold back, maybe wait for that second shipment, but at least they know
Yeah, absolutely.
ahead of time.
And what we say internally, and this is something that we've socialized with a lot of customers, it's not warehouse versus transportation anymore. It's inbound and outbound.
Yeah,
Because what I have coming inbound into my DC, my warehouse, influences what goes outbound, especially
right.
if I had a continuous move or flow through inventory, or whatever the case may be. Because if I have delays on the inbound side or I have exceptions on the inbound side, it's
Mhm.
certainly going to influence what's going on the outbound side as well.
Well, and I think the other point to make is that it's one login.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has
Yeah.
one login and they can look at the different things that they need to be looking at rather than going into one system, remembering the password, going into another system. I don't know about you, but I have trouble with passwords. So
Yeah.
one login would be good for me.
But you talked about the login, which is certainly an obstacle that people face today. But
Mhm.
you know, having a single login to the active platform is just one of the benefits. The other thing is The active platform has the same look and feel no matter which workflow you're engaged in. Whether
Okay.
you're planning a shipment or you're loading a shipment in a trailer, it's all the same look and feel, right? It's the same product. So the change management involved in having training your users on how to use the system and the application, it's far expedited because you don't have to train them over here on doing this one thing in this application, then go over here and train them on how to do something completely different with a completely
Right.
different look and feel in a different application.
Hmm.
So not only is the single login certainly beneficial, but also user
Training.
adoption and change management and onboarding as well.
Absolutely. Now, one of the other big benefits that we talked about for unification is greater resiliency. Now, that's another buzzword, but the pandemic really brought that one to light. What does resiliency mean for organizations as they face the continued disruption we're seeing across the globe? I mean, disruption is another buzzword, but we're all seeing it, we're all feeling it, it's happening.
Yeah, we don't want to get lost in the buzzword, but the reason that they're buzzwords is because they matter, and people
That's
talk
true.
about them all the
Very
time,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Is like, oh, you're talking too much about visibility. Well, it matters. So another one
You
that
tell them,
matters.
Bryant.
Yeah. We're not going to just shy away from buzzwords because they're overused. It's because they actually matter. Resiliency obviously takes many shapes and forms for different people, just as visibility does.
Mhm.
But resiliency really hasn't become a buzzword until 2020,
Mhm.
because we always have plans. We have a plan A about how a shipment's going to execute or how we're going to load a trailer. Well, guess
Right.
what? Things happen. And they happen all the time in supply chain. So how do you react to change? Is if you have a positive reaction or you're prepared, that makes you more resilient.
Mhm.
And having the tools and the capabilities within the application itself allows you to be more resilient. Now, I want to go back to the first point that we had. Part of being resilient is being able to see what's going on, which is the point that we had just talked about with visibility. You
Mhm.
need to see what's going on within your supply chain, whether it's in warehouse, whether it's in transportation or yard, whatever the case may be. We need to surface the information that end users care about so that they can quickly see and resolve those exceptions as they're happening.
Right.
So part of being resilient is one, seeing and understanding, but two, being able to proactively or reactively resolve those exceptions as they happen. So, a key portion of the resiliency is being able to see and solve, which is pretty basic within supply chain, but it's further enhanced with a unified supply chain because we have all of this data in a single platform. We don't have to go to this application to get it. We don't have to go to this application and get it and go on and so forth, which some applications in supply chain space today are pulling data from different sources and
Mhm.
trying to aggregate it into a single view. The problem is it's a view. So I see what's going on, but I still might need to go to another application to
Right.
actually resolve it. Whereas if you're on the same platform, not only are you seeing what's going on, you can quickly resolve it too. You don't have to go somewhere else to do it because all that's available to you at
Mhm.
your fingertips. Now, another portion of resiliency, that was more on the operational side, but let's take a look at the IT and architecture side of resiliency as well.
Mhm.
Is we had talked about how the architecture is cloud native, microservice based, componentized, extendable. What that allows us to do has have zero downtime. Whereas
What? I mean,
some
that's
of
good to know.
Yeah. So some of your, let's say, legacy software is you need to bring the software down so that you can upgrade, or you need to bring the
Right.
software down so that you can put in maintenance or fixes, whatever the case may be. Well, the problem is I can't do my job because you brought the system down because you need to do those improvements.
Right.
But our architecture allows us to have rolling updates. So we don't have to bring the system down. It's
Huh.
still very much operational. We can update one component at a time. So the users can still continue to do their daily workflow without being disruptive
Huh.
to what they need to do. They can always do their job no matter what. So what we do behind the scenes to update a component has nothing to do with the user experience, but they still get the benefit of having the updated capabilities deployed into the component. So from a resiliency standpoint, we're very resilient because we're not bringing the system down.
So it brings up a really good point as well, because if you've got the tech stacks and you're using different systems, if one system updates, because this has happened to me in my personal life with all the different things,
Yeah.
if one system updates themselves, then they may no longer be compatible with that integration or the other system. And then you either have to update them or you got to go back and forth with them. Because this just happened to my bookkeeping software. They updated something and now it won't import some information that I need from over here. And it's taken me 3 months and they still haven't fixed it, of screenshots and videos to showcase how that works or how it's working for me and what I'm seeing and all this kind of stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I think that that's one other key point that goes missing when we talk about having multiple systems and not just the amount of your tech stack.
Yeah, I mean, it's a point that's sometimes lost. And
Yeah,
it's actually a really important point because
so important.
nobody really thinks about zero downtime or maintenance or anything
And
until they
three
need
months. That's a
it.
long
So
time. That's a lot of
uh,
work for somebody.
it's kind of like insurance, right? You really only care until you need it. But the other analogy I was going to make here is for those that are big into holiday lights, whether it doesn't matter which holidays you celebrate, but the old school string of lights is if one bulb went out,
That's
the
true.
rest of them went out, right? So you have that
So annoying.
downward negative impact of, one bulb going out. Well, then they start getting better about, well, you can isolate it to just this one bulb and all this good stuff. It's kind of the same analogy here is a lot of people don't have the same vendor for their warehouse, their transportation, their yard. Usually they source it from different
Mhm.
vendors for whatever the case may be. So if you're upgrading your warehouse management
Yeah.
system, it you need to make sure it's backward compatible to your transportation management system. And if you have different vendors, they don't really care. That's
Mhm.
really your problem to figure out. So I may have gone through a lengthy upgrade to update my warehouse, and then I created all these problems downstream where
Right.
now my TMS is no longer compatible with the new upgrade that my warehouse just went through, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, not the case here because it's all part of the same platform. It's
I'm
just a
gonna
component.
I'm gonna use your analogy. I think the light bulb just went off for a lot of people.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to do that. All right.
No, it's good. It's good.
So, what's the impact of all of this on costs? Because budgets right now are tough, right? Costs are up, businesses are finding themselves with more and more outlays. But I think that through supply chain unification, companies can make significant reductions. So, talk to me about this.
Yeah, so again, being cognizant of the audience here, I'll have an example for our operational friends and I'll have an example for our IT friends. So let's talk about cost and maybe cost avoidance or cost savings from an operational perspective. If I have a single shipment that my warehouse users, my transportation yard, all those people are interacting with the same shipment, right? Which is fantastic because I don't
Mhm.
want to create duplicates of the same shipment elsewhere.
Right.
When I plan a shipment in TMS, in a traditional TMS, I'm just guessing what are the actual dimensions of these pallets, how much do they weigh, and so on and so forth, because I don't really know what the warehouse is going to load in the trailer. I can
Right.
guess, but I don't really know. The problem with that is you may leave one or two pallet spaces empty on a trailer because you're working with estimated dimensions of
Mhm.
an order. Or even worse, you overbuilt a trailer and now you need to leave pallets behind because you underestimated how big
Right.
these orders were. Well, the beauty of having it all on one platform is we know. We know exactly how big these orders are because warehouse is going to go through the process of waiving these shipments to actually cube them so we know exactly how big these
Mhm.
orders are, which influence the transportation plan. So when we're consolidating orders together, we know exactly what we need to plan for, which orders are going to stack on which, where they can be placed in the trailer, or they can be placed on the left, the right, the nose, the tail, so on and so forth. We have a really good idea of how we're going to plan these. So from an operational perspective, you're going to maximize your trailer utilization because you know exactly what you need to plan for. You're not estimating. The
Right.
same thing can be said when you're driving less miles. So, in the example where I had underplanned a trailer, I'm shipping air, which is the last thing you want to do because you're already paying for that truck anyway. You might as well have
Right.
it fully utilized. In the example where I underestimated how much I need to actually put in the trailer and I had to leave pallets behind, guess what? That is a very negative experience for your
For
customers
your
because
customer.
you might
Hmm.
get charged with OTIF
Right.
fines because it might have been on time, but it wasn't in full.
Hmm.
You left some pallets back on the dock because you didn't have visibility into what you actually needed to plan for. So very operationally, you have the cost avoidance there because you're planning to actuals. You're not estimating it. So that helps with our business friends. From a technology cost perspective, we had already talked about the inefficiencies of okay, I planned a shipment in a legacy TMS. Now I need to go copy and duplicate and integrate that shipment over to my legacy WMS. And it takes time for that information to get over there. And I can't keep those shipments in sync. And now we're tossing it back and forth. Well, guess what? Not only is there inefficiencies in that, but also the overhead and maintenance of not only connecting these systems, but maintaining the integration across these systems is a very real technology cost. And then
Right.
you start getting into obsolescence, and then you start getting into upgrades and backward compatibility and all these other things that start to mount from a technology perspective and a technology cost perspective. So not only are you getting hit on the operational side and you're being
Yeah.
inefficient there, you're getting hit on the technology side as well, being inefficient there.
Crazy. And all of those costs sort of stack up. And I can tell, we talk about being overwhelmed around technology, supply chain leaders, et cetera, but you can really see why. If you
Mhm.
make, one decision that influences another that sort of stacks up all of this cost and this time, it can really get very time consuming and very costly. Now, I know you just gave us two examples, but do you have a really quick case study that you can tell us the challenge that they were having, the solution that you provided, and maybe the ROI and benefit to them from working with Manhattan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for NDA, I can't share the actual company name,
Mhm.
but, they're a large specialist in energy management and
Okay.
automation. They're in over 100 countries. Some people might be familiar with the brand and they could probably pick out who they are, but I can't say officially. Um, you know, they came to us with a problem. And their problem was they have too many disparate systems that they deploy globally. They can't have each other collaborate and share
Hmm.
information, and it's just some are on-prem, some are in the cloud. It's just a very they grew organically, right? So with that organic growth is you have different systems over different times. And they said, we need a better strategy going forward. We need to consolidate not only all of the systems that we're using, but we need to bring all of them to the cloud for the benefits that we had talked about in just this
Right.
call. So
Yeah.
they had multiple different vendors supplying multiple different technologies. And, we already talked about the inefficiencies that creates. So that was kind of like step one is, okay, let's bring this all together here so that you get the benefits of having a centralized platform
Hmm.
that everyone can benefit from. You don't have all these disparate systems that you need to manage over time. So that was kind of goal number one is simplifying the technology landscape that they were working with, right? So certainly a benefit there. We already highlighted the benefits. The second goal thereafter was improve how much cost or how can I reduce the cost that I'm putting into my supply chain? And for all intents and purposes, supply chain is a cost center.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily an area that's generating revenue. It's usually a place that's sucking the money. So how do we reduce our operational costs so that we can be more efficient. Obviously, they improve visibility, improve shipment planning.
Resiliency.
Yeah, for all the things that we just said, right? But it's actually coming to life for them. They took a phased approach with how they're rolling out. So, there's different ways that you can do this. You can deploy your transportation workflows and then follow up with warehouse, or what you could do is big bang with a single facility. Well, what they've decided to do was take one DC and deploy warehouse and transportation workflows together.
Okay.
And the benefit, of course, is you get the visibility of inbound through
Hmm.
the warehouse and outbound out to the customers.
Yeah.
So they're able to improve not only their performance inbound, they get better line of sight from their suppliers into their DCs, but they're also able to improve their performance to their customers outbound because they had better
Hmm.
insights into where the inventory was going to be and when.
Right.
So if they needed to reschedule an appointment with a customer or they needed to have multiple shipments to satisfy an order. They had the ability to do that, and they had the foresight to do that before it became a problem. So,
Mhm.
two primary goals, again, consolidating the technology landscape, but also cost avoidance on the operational side.
And so, what did they see as an ROI and benefit? Have they quantified that with you?
They did, and it's not something I can share, unfortunately.
Oh,
Just
okay. But
like
it's big numbers.
it's, it would be seven figures.
Woo!
So, yeah,
Okay, that's a really big deal. Now, you just gave us an example of kind of a bigger customer. Do you have an
yes,
ideal client? Like, if I'm sitting here listening to this, trying to figure out whether I'm the ideal client to call Manhattan, who would I
yeah.
be?
The awesome part about this is everyone has a supply chain, big and small, right?
Mhm.
What's cool about this is the architecture allows you to scale up and down
Okay.
based on your complexity, right? So if you're a shipper that doesn't use modeling or 3D load building or transportation procurement or dispatch, right? Those are all different components and different workflows within the active platform. If you don't need it, you don't use it, you don't have to deploy it. So if you're a smaller shipper that just needs the benefit of visibility and carrier collaboration and all these types of things, you have the ability to scale down with the application because it's componentized, right?
Hmm.
It's not some big monolithic application that you have to deploy
Right.
for all of it to work. It's you get to deploy what you're going to use because it's all componentized. So
Okay.
um,
So
they get
really small to large and really anybody with a supply chain.
exactly.
I love that. All right. So finally, then we're going to wrap this up real quick. We're looking at 2025 in the eye right now. What can we expect from Manhattan as you continue to help clients on their journey with supply chain unification?
Yeah, I gotta be careful here not to divulge all of our roadmap secrets
Tell us
here,
all the
but
secrets.
all the secrets. As you can guess, Gen AI has taken the world by storm.
Mm.
Another friendly buzzword for us to throw in here, just so we check all the boxes, but we're really actually taking it to heart. And there's just things that a unified platform can do that legacy siloed applications can't, including automation. So a lot of what we had talked about today was just table stakes for how a unified platform can work together. But if we can actually automate those processes and actually make it more efficient for a user, then it goes back to what we had talked about earlier is supply chains are complex, but they don't need to be hard to manage. So if
Yes.
we can build the application to do the heavy lifting for the users, not only in the insights that it provides, but also process automation, it certainly makes the user experience far more user friendly, but also allows them to get out of the tactical and focus more on the strategic, which is what we want our users to do. We want them to be strategic in how they're managing their supply chains. So if we can take all that tactical minutia and automate a lot of those things, a lot of the workflows can be automated as they're interacting with transportation and warehouse. So if I
Awesome.
knew that my inbound transportation and my inbound shipment was going to be late by 2 hours, why don't I just automatically reschedule my delivery appointment? Why does a user need to actually go in there and look for an open available slot when the system already knows what's the next available slot? Just slot them in there. So those types of things, not only are we going to improve the automation, we're going to further extend our capabilities on the Gen AI front. There's a lot that is untapped potential there that we're looking forward to deploying in 2025.
I can't wait. So today's dynamic logistics landscape demands a shift from siloed and integrated approaches to unified supply chain operations. Embracing a unified approach creates opportunities for new levels of efficiency, sustainable growth, and competitive advantage. And Manhattan can help. Their unified technology empowers businesses to navigate modern logistics with confidence, agility, and resilience. Now, did you have a guess at today's big question? Well, at the top of the show, I asked you many companies have invested in multiple technologies to digitize operations. But according to a 2024 report, which areas see the least investment? Well, it's ERP enhancements at 27% and data ecosystems at only 33% that have seen the least investment. Meanwhile, cloud, AI, and machine learning are the leaders. I know AI is important, but don't forget about your data, people. If you want to find out more, you can check them out at manh.com. A massive thanks to Bryant for joining me today. And if you are looking for more content featuring the best and brightest in the industry, head over to letstalksupplychain.com to check out the latest. And remember to come back next week. I'm going to be joined by Trace Haggard of TSG Fleet to learn all about what they are doing. So, Bryant, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. It was a great time and looking forward to our next chat.